Alright, hello and welcome to the second show of Soundtrack of Your Life. On this week's show, I'm very pleased to say that I've got the great Andrew Handrick on. He is a singer-songwriter originally from Dublin in Ireland, but now lives in Italy. If you check out Andrew's songs on his website and his social media platforms, details of which I'll give at the end of the show, you'll see that Andrew has a brilliant wide range of songwriting, lyrics, melodies that are really some great songs in there. And throughout this hour, you'll see his storytelling side on emotions, stories, band days, all sorts going on. It was another fantastic hour filled with easy listening and easy conversation, and really makes for a great watch or listen. As a reminder, this show is available in video form on my YouTube channel, Inner Peace Walker TV, and on all your favourite podcast platforms. So wherever you are, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and let people know about the show. And if you want to be a guest on the show, do fill in the sign up form located somewhere on whatever it is you're watching or listening to. Again, enjoy this great episode with Andrew and feel supersonic. Good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you may be in the world. Hello and welcome to the second session of Soundtrack of Your Life. I'm really pleased to have Andrew Handrick on the show. When he replied saying I'd like to be on the show, I thought, yes, this is going to be a top session, because in his own words, he is addicted to music. That's exactly the kind of person that I want to be on the show, to share stories, to share songs, whatever it may be. You know, having seen Andrew's content over the past, whatever it is, 3 or so months I've been on the same platform as him, on Clapper, you know, his songs, his lyrics, his delivery is something really quite special. So, Andrew, if you'd just like to introduce yourself to the audience, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Richard. Well, my name's Andrew Handrick. I'm originally from Dublin, Ireland, but I moved to Italy about 15 years ago. It's a long time to be living in a different country, but wow. Yeah, I never thought I'd be I know interested in coming to Italy, and then I end up living here, you know. Strange the way it is. What have I got? Yeah, right. I suppose indie folk, indie rock music, and I'm very interested in the truth of everything in life. I'm always searching for answers.
Wow. What a beginning that is. You're searching for the answer. I mean, I was interested actually in that response on the form when he said addicted to music. Where does that come from for you?
I don't know. Music, well, I suppose the earliest memory I have of music really is hearing Ashes to Ashes by David Bowie. And it just hit me. And I mean, I'm Irish, so we have a lot of, let's say, melancholy. So the song just hit me, I think, because for me, it's a very melancholic song. I don't know. And the lyrics, you know, I've never done good things. I've never done bad things. It's like, I don't know. It just hit me. And that's kind of, my first song that really hit me, and really kind of entered my soul, you could say. Wow. But apart from that, I mean, my dad was always singing around the house, you know, all these musicals, you know, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, I've had a mixed bag of influences. But yeah, I've just been, without music, I honestly don't know where I'd be in life, because it's the only constant companion. I mean, you call that a companion, really. Yeah, that's kind of saved me in many instances, you know. So that's, I think we're addicted to each other, you might say.
No, I love that. I mean, when you said the words, saving you at some point, I wholly resonate with that. You know, I remark so many times that certain songs in my life have appeared from nowhere, and at the times you actually needed them, when you didn't think you actually needed them. Songs that spring to mind are Fort Knox by Oasis. No, not Oasis. Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. Soldier On by Oasis as well. Obviously, because of my, I guess, background and being into them, they've appeared at times when, you know, I've been personally low or kind of troubled, challenged, call it what you will. On the flip side, there's been songs that, you know, just sum up what you're feeling exactly there and then. So, you know, on my list I wrote, you mentioned David Bowie before, I mentioned Heroes. And that just takes me back to 2005, which was a very special year for me for, you know, various reasons. And now whenever that song comes on anywhere, I'm just transported back to that year. And
again, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What music does, the memory, it just brings you right back to that moment, whether you want to or not, really.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, as a songwriter as well, I mean, I've written songs that are like 20 years old. Some of them I never performed, actually. I've started performing them now for some reason. Who knows? But it can, you know, it brings me back to the way I was feeling in that moment. And it's like, you know, I remember, I think I saw an interview with Pete Townsend talking about this. Do you really want to be going back to that moment again and again and again, you know? Because, you know, in a way you're sort of outgrown it, but you have to go back and feel that emotion, you know? And it's almost like a sacrifice in a way sometimes to go back to those moments, I think. Well, I'm talking from an artistic point of view, I suppose, but even, you know, I suppose maybe with other people's songs, yeah, you can, if you've grown, you know, and maybe learned from whatever lesson you had at that time that connected you with that song in a way, you can look back at it more fondly, I suppose. Whereas if you haven't grown at all, you're just going to go right back into, if it was a bad experience, you're just going to go back into that bad experience, which is, I don't know, but maybe that's healthy too. I don't know, you know, making you relive it and maybe learn it again later. I don't know.
Well, I love both interpretations of that, you know, both from, as you said, an artistic perspective in terms of whether you then reflect in your own material what to write about, you know, what emotion to convey, if indeed that was your aim, versus having to relive things. You know, the artists that, you know, I read interviews about or books about, you know, there's a book, I've actually still got to complete it, to be honest, but you might have heard of it, called the Island of Noises. And it's a collaboration of interviews with various songwriters through the ages, asking them these very questions. What prompted you to write this song or this album or whatever it might be? And constantly they all talk about, well, it's one of two perspectives. It's either to convey what they've been through, which I feel is more of a modern day thing, where it's like, it, you know, they say it's about my grandmother, for example, or me growing up in wherever they grew up, versus other writers that talk about a universal truth. So you know, they'll say, look, I'll leave it to the listener to interpret whatever they want to interpret it as. And it's interesting that you could speak to maybe 100 different people and they'll all have a different interpretation of what that certain song means. And then the songwriter will go, well, I just wrote that when I was pissed, to be honest. but that's the beauty of it.
Say that, but I mean, the way I look at songs is that and I've heard I realized this before I heard other famous big artists saying it, that songs are kind of just out there floating around.
Yeah.
And we're kind of antenna to pick up on it. And, you know, it's like, you have to have the skill to write the song, obviously, but even if you do write a song and you're pissed, it doesn't mean it wasn't a very deep song. You know what I mean? It's like you were there at the time you wrote it, and you're the medium or whatever you call it for the song to flow through. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I've written songs probably when I was drunk. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, songs I don't know what they mean sometimes for a few years ahead, and then I realize, oh, that's what I was talking about. You're kind of predicting the future. It sounds really weird when you're talking about this, but that's what it's like sometimes. I've no idea what some of my songs are about. Yeah, I have a vague idea, but And like you say, leaving it up to the listener to interpret it, as long as obviously it's not taken in a violent way or something, then you kind of have to speak out. But other than that, no, I think I don't like explaining songs. And I like when people ask me now, even songs I wrote years ago, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what it's about. I have to go back. Really, even if I'm singing it, because it's the emotion I'm singing, it's not necessarily the words in some way, it's the feeling of the music. So I have to go back and read through the lyrics like coldly and then figure out what was that really about. So, but yeah, they come from, it starts off personal and then it becomes a bigger universal theme, as you say, I think, but you have to write about what you know, and you write about your own experiences. I find it difficult to write like just, I don't know, how would you say, just kind of make up a story. I mean, it happens sometimes, but rarely, So yeah, songs are the whole process, and songs in general are just very interesting, I mean, like I listen to REM, and some of their first albums, I have no idea. I have no idea what the guy's saying. Absolutely no idea. It doesn't matter, because it's just the feeling that he's giving, and that's what it's about. It's the feeling, and sometimes the words don't matter really. I think more so in today's music.
Yeah.
A lot of songs that, oh my God, I don't know what the hell they're.
Why? How did this get past like a producer or a label manager or whomever? I'm like, that would be a good thing to put out. Like, what?
Well, I think in a way it kind of, every generation thinks the up and coming generation are useless and don't know what they're doing, but it's a different generation. That's the way it is. So I mean, my daughter listens to Eminem, and I'm like, whatever. It's like. It's not my thing really. I didn't grow up listening to that at all. It wasn't not something I get into. So, but it's what she likes, and she gets her vibe out of it or whatever. It's cool, Like I say, as long as I don't care what people listen to or what message they take, as long as it doesn't bring any violence. That's it, Like even with my own songs, when sometimes I have to sign things or. To say it can be used for certain things, but I always stipulate that it can't be used for any kind of violence or any videos. I'm just not into that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Good on you for that. I mean, it was brilliant when you've talked about people take their own meaning from the song. We mentioned before that like 100 different people could have something different meaning wise. That took me a little while to actually grab onto. When I first developed my musical taste, I can think back to, I'd have been the formative years of 12, 13, early teenagers getting influenced, etc. I picked up my love of rock music via just a snippet I might have heard on an advert or on the radio or in and around, and then it just built from there. And I think back then it was like, right, I found it, I wonder who else has found it and who else can I bring on board with me. I found something really cool. So then it turned into almost a kind of a musical snobbery. I don't want to say war, but like, you'd play someone like a rock song or whatever it might be, and like, oh, it's too loud, or it's too, I don't get what they're saying. And loud guitars are loud. I'm like, and I used to get quite wound up by that, and people would exploit that. So, they might, take the piss out of, Oasis or rock or whatever it might be, versus then perpetuating their own music that I went into, things like R&B, hip hop, that kind of thing. And it I found myself very much like a me versus them type thing, manufactured in all regards. But it's like, as time has wore on, I'm like, do you know what? It's similar to what you were saying about whatever people like, they like. And yeah, look, that doesn't mean I have to like everything that people listen to, this kind of thing. And I get people with eclectic taste to go, I like a bit of everything. That's cool. And it's just me again now practicing the whole, if someone comes along with you that enjoys your music or whatever it might be, then great. If they don't, that's also okay, because you take from it what you
difficult though. I mean,
it really is. Yeah.
This song has got the best thing I've ever heard, and I played to someone, they're like, nah. And I'm like, what? What? Did it not hit you? They're like, no. And it's just, we're all, we all come from we all look at life from different perspectives. We all look at music at different perspectives, and something is the best thing someone's ever heard for someone else. It's like elevator music, you know. It's like that's
Exactly.
just the way it is.
And it seems even more so today because I was just talking about it with a friend the other day of like I say back in the day, but we're only talking what, maybe even late 90s, early 2000s, to get into a band of music you had to still go out and physically buy the record, the CD, the tape, whomever. You know, there was, you know, file sharing going on in the early 90s. Probably shouldn't say that too loud. And if you wanted to get a gig, a ticket, you'd have to phone up a line or go and queue physically somewhere. Nowadays it's like, if you want a song, instantly on YouTube, Spotify, it's literally everything's on this thing. And if you want a ticket for a gig, if it's that popular an artist, now I read articles about, you know, this Taylor Swift tour that's knocking about, the problems that people have had, you know, just because of all the first the demand and the fact that there are automatic, you know, bots sweeping up all the tickets and then reselling them. It's just a whole new experience, you know.
Well, yeah, it is.
It's
We
crazy.
kind of everything's instant now, and music to some extent has lost value. I mean, I always think it would be great. It would be great if we took all music out of the world for a week. People would freak out.
That's an idea.
Because no matter what, like you're watching a movie without music is ridiculous. It makes no sense. You know, there's no emotion. Or very little. You know, everyday life. I mean, you know, as much as I don't like it sometimes, like you walk into a shopping center or a shop, there's music playing. There's always music around. There's always people driving by in cars. I think if you took music out of the world for a week, people would start paying for it again.
There's an experiment to be had.
See, revolution.
Yeah, let's have a go. But it's such an important point you make. Like, you mentioned soundtracks. Do you have any favorite film soundtracks that you know go, that really impacts me or raises the film or wherever it might be?
I don't know. Soundtracks. Yeah, there's one film out. God, I'm useless with names and stuff. What's the name of the movie? I can't think of the name of the movie. But the song was called "Real Hero." Very 80s electronic thing.
All right.
Maybe the movie was Drive. Is that what it was? But an amazing soundtrack, yeah. And this song, I don't even know who it's by. I'm just useless with names. But I just listen to this over and over again. It's just an amazing song. So I think the movie's called, with Ryan Gosling, maybe, Drive. A bit of violence in that movie too, but yeah, that the soundtrack to that was very, very 80s influence, because a lot of the 80s stuff's kind of come back. Other than that, there was a movie with Johnny Depp called Dead Man. I think Neil Young did the soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
It's very kind of raw guitar. Yeah, great movie too. Other soundtracks I can't think at the moment, but I'm because I watch stuff and then I just completely forget it. But those two, I'm useless. I read books and then I forget them.
Oh, don't worry. One of the things that I plan to do on this show is, you know, to get the guests to put up their own soundtrack of your life in the comments or description, wherever, so that people can go and share it. So we can, you know, check that out afterwards. When you mentioned soundtracks, you know, two that sprung up for me straight away were actually three of them. Ennio Morricone, so did all the spaghetti westerns, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, for example. The Dark Knight trilogy, so Hans Zimmer. Yeah, I think he's caught the essence of a superhero in that soundtrack. It's particularly Batman, with the whole almost dilemma that he's got. You know, the fact that he's a superhero trying, you know, in the mold of vengeance versus an ordinary human being who's quite actually insecure. And then lastly, randomly, the Terminator 2 soundtrack, just for the the depiction of well, obviously the film is about the fact that mankind will be taken over by machines one day, and specifically a judgment day, and then the soundtrack accompanying it is very kind of military based, very slow build up, quite repetitive in that sort of almost robotic way, and just when you hear it, like, it almost kind of gives me a bit more focus, if that makes sense. Not to turn to a killing machine, of course, but more to just it just it caught me where, like, it's instantly recognizable too, that, like, just the motif or the riff, and it's like, as you said, soundtracks can absolutely enhance a film in that manner.
It's amazing. I think it's undervalued in a lot of ways. I mean, even you see on different apps now, like TikTok or Clapper, as you mentioned, people using different songs in their videos, and it adds to it all. It's the problem is everybody wants it for nothing. But,
that's it.
But I'm a musician. When was the last time I paid for music? I don't know. I mean, but they haven't said that. If I found a group that, I suppose maybe an independent artist more, I would buy their music just to support them. You know what I mean? I have done in the past, and I would do it again. I think it's important to support art in all its forms, because it's the first thing that gets hit anytime there's an economic downturn.
Very true.
Out the window. And it's particularly these last few years, it's been difficult. And even where I live, there were a few venues to play, but they closed down.
Yeah, same here. And these are like iconic venues as well, not some small town. These are like, in recently what the Astoria's closed here in London. There's a petition to save one of the theatres in town as well. So, as you said, and just on the back of that, just this mess about with Brexit, and the fact that UK bands and artists find it more difficult to tour Europe now, specifically Europe, because of all the regulations and things you have to go through. So what could be a quick lucrative and marketable way to get your band out there by doing a quick European tour, a few nights in a row through Europe. I think they're just saying it's such a hassle with the red tape now.
With every country they go to, they have to set up different
and some also some refuse entry and some do. So it's more like it gets so fragmented, whereas before you could do whatever it is, France, Germany, through down to Italy, across to Spain, whatever it might be. But now it's just like, wow, as you said, something so impactful in all our lives. As you said, people often forget about it in times like this.
It's a shame. But we just keep going and we keep doing it.
That's exactly it. And, you mentioned that it's always cool to support small artists and what have you. And, that definitely struck a chord with me in the idea of when you go to see their gigs when they're first, new on the scene, whether they've got a new album out or first tour or whatever, that experience isn't quite the expensive thing you might think that it is. So it's most people nowadays, with this cost of living mess that's going on, like I can't afford say a Taylor Swift gig or whatever it might be, or even Elton John, who just he recently finished his tour and the tickets were like silly prices for something way in the back in the distance. Versus I went to see a punk band here called Kid Capici. It's from Hastings, quite quite a vociferous band and what have you. And the ticket was only £18 or something at the Coco in Camden. Again, quite an intimate, nice venue, but such a connection with the people that you're there with, because I feel that. I was just saying in that regard that music is such a unifier in that if you compare it to, say, sport, for example. If you go to a stadium, half the stadium disagrees with what you're there for. They want the other half or player or team to win. Whereas at a gig, you're all there to see the same artist, support the same music. And it's like, when you're all into it, it's quite something, and all your connections come together.
Yeah, exactly. I saw REM play in Slane Castle in
Oh,
Ireland, and there was, I mean, officially there was 80,000 people, but I think there was 100,000 people there. Amazing, just unbelievable. Like, at one stage, there was a slow song they were playing. Everybody took up their, paper drink cups and just started throwing them in the air. And the band were like it was an amazing spectacle. They'd never seen anything like this. It was just something unique that happened in the moment. That probably, I don't know if it ever happened again. But to have everybody there, and again, like, I don't go back, but no violence, no nothing, just people there enjoying themselves, sharing the moment. It's an amazing thing, and I think the last few years with all the lockdowns and all that stuff, I remember looking at a like a poster in a venue and seeing, like, the crowd all together like a mosh pit, and I was thinking, is that ever going to happen again? Because I want my daughter to experience that.
quite. Yeah, exactly.
If I have to take her to an Eminem concert, I will. You know what I mean? But again, that would be in Milan, and have to go there. The price of the ticket. I mean, it's an expensive business, and it's a shame that it's getting to that level, because a lot of people are missing out on these amazing experiences, I think. I mean, online, yeah, there's gigs online, you can watch stuff, but it's not the
It's not
same.
the same. It really isn't.
I mean, as a musician, I mean, I remember playing in pubs. I started as a drummer and
Oh,
played in
okay.
this pub. Yeah, I played drums for like 10 years. Played in different bands, but I remember being in one little pub, and like we were playing, like, and the walls were sweating. It was just like such a atmosphere, and I can't even explain what that is, unless you've been there and experienced that intensity, and even another song, as we're talking about songs that bring me back to certain times. There's an Irish artist called Damien Dempsey,
Uh-huh.
um, and I remember I used to go and watch him playing in small venues in Dublin before he became the big star he is now, I suppose. But the intensity of the gigs, and it was just himself with acoustic guitar, and he had a guy with him playing flute, I think, or tin whistle, yeah. But it was like, I remember standing there thinking, this must have been what it was like to watch the Beatles in the cavern.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
just intensity, and everybody, because this guy is real Dublin, really from Dublin. Like, I'm from Dublin, but I'm not from inner city Dublin kind of thing.
Right.
It's a different vibe. Um, he was like, I think he was a boxer, and a really nice guy, actually. I met him a couple of times because we played in the same venue as him one time, and I played in a band with my brothers, and we were kind of a punk pop band, I suppose.
Amazing.
But yeah, but this guy we played at the same time as him, and I knew everybody's in the back room after. I was like, oh, well done. And that. My brothers were kind of like sneering at him, like, who's this guy with the acoustic guitar with this real thick Dublin accent? But I really appreciated the guy because I had a different mindset, of artists and stuff like that. But then I got to meet him later on, at different times, and just a really nice guy, really down to earth, but an amazing songwriter. And one of the songs that really I remember kind of involved with a relationship I was in at the time, and a song called "It's All Good." Beautiful song, amazing songwriter, and just a good person. He was actually, Sinead O'Connor used to play with him. I think she sang on his album as well, actually. Yeah,
Wow.
which is kind of that still hits me, actually. Sinead O'Connor dying. I didn't think it would, actually. Not that I did. I didn't think about it, but when it happened, um,
It
it
makes you
just
think, doesn't it? It
really
just makes you
affected.
pause and just go, shit. You know?
Well, yeah, because I mean, she lived in the same. I mean, obviously she's from Dublin, but she also lived in the same town. I moved out of Dublin when my parents moved out of Dublin, took me with them. And I saw her performing with Damien Dempsey, that I just talked about. But it really hit me, and um, some people. I mean, some people's deaths, I won't say they don't affect me.
Mm,
Even
mm.
some kind of, you know not close family, but extended family. It's like, well, they're old, they die.
Yeah.
I'm very accepting of a lot of things as well. The way life is. But I think certain people, they have such pure souls, that it affects people to a larger degree than other people. And that happened with even in Italy. I kind of met this he was famous in the 70s, then he became a Buddhist monk or something in Tibet or whatever, Nepal, I don't know. Then he came back to Italy and kind of started singing again. And I met him. I played at a competition in Rome. I don't like competition, but there was a lot of kind of famous DJs and journalists here, which I didn't know. But I went and played it anyway, and I immediately had a connection with this guy, as if I'd known him before. And it was kind of mutual. And but then he died. I saw him playing a couple of times, and he really understood my music, But then I saw him playing another couple of times, and then he died. And it just affected me so deeply. And I'd only met him a couple of times, but it was just, again, the fact that he was such a pure soul, had done a lot of work on himself, and is very clean, I know you're into kind of the shadow work and all that, and he'd done it, like, you know what I mean? And I think when people like that have such a pure light to them, it affects people beyond measure, So yeah, Sinead O'Connor, that hit me hard. Yeah, like I say, I wasn't really expecting, because I couldn't say I was a huge fan. I would be more a fan of her rebellious style,
Yeah, well,
Speaking
it's only when you you read about what people have had to say about her, for example, and all the stories that came out, and just realize, okay, you knew of her through music, and not necessarily knowing her old discography, but the impact she had on speaking out, forthright, the confidence, and she just wouldn't take no shit half the time. And you're like, that's
to come from Ireland at that time,
yeah,
with the church and then women, and I mean, for a kid, basically, what was she, like 20 years old, to be coming out and saying what she was saying and doing what she was doing, it's just amazing, the strength of her, then to keep doing it and not to care how it affected her career, and to just keep trying to be a normal person, just absolutely amazing, and a real icon, and someone to admire. I actually played one of her songs. I was playing a show last night, and I played one of her songs, so just as a little tribute to her. Obviously, nobody else would get it, but I did, and that's what counted,
Absolutely, exactly, and that's what we were saying before. You could have an audience, and either nobody gets it, or everybody gets it, or some people might get something.
Well, I think the best artists don't care. That's the thing.
That's it.
And that's the way I started in Dublin as a singer-songwriter. I had no respect for my audience. I didn't care. If they started being noisy, I just had to shut up or get out. I just didn't. I just had this attitude of like, this is what I'm doing. Because getting up on, I don't know if people know this, but I think when you perform as an artist, I think it's the equivalent of being in a car crash at something like 5 or 10 miles an hour every time you perform. That's what it does to your body. Like, it's an extreme, even when you're used to it and all, that kind of intensity and adrenaline and everything, it takes so much out of you. So I just decided.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, I just decided I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to please people. Because I'd been in bands that songwriters started trying to write certain songs. I was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't play that. It sounds like them. It sounds like someone else. Not to say my songs don't sound like other people, but I never intentionally write that way,
Right.
So yeah, I think the best artists don't care, and they do it for themselves, and they believe in it. And I painted in my job I had here was painting ceramics in a tourist shop, and I used to paint something. I painted a lot of just ordinary, typical stuff, but then I'd paint something from myself, maybe, or just something different, just to keep my sanity, And But I found out eventually, if I painted and I liked it, other people liked it, because, you have your own taste, but I think if you've got, oh yeah, if you've got good taste, I mean, maybe even not, I don't know. People will like what you do. I think if you put your heart and soul into it, people will connect with it, and it doesn't matter what it is. And that's the thing. So, and you have to be brave about it. And they're the kind of artists that I admire, people that just get out. Like I was talking about Damien Dempsey, the guy from Dublin, singing with a thick Dublin accent. That would immediately be a no-no for a lot of people. When I sing, sometimes maybe I have a bit of an American, I don't know, because I'm influenced by American music, maybe, I don't know. Or even somebody wrote a review about me once that I was a bit too nasally. Yeah, whatever, now I get compared to all these famous singers who are singing a bit nasally, you know what I mean? Because there's loads of them, and I don't care. I'm not going to change the way I sing because one guy writes something there. It's just, you have to just not care. And they're the artists that I love, that just go out and do it and take the heat, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Like even playing at the competition in Rome, I was telling you about. My girlfriend at the time, I was going to play a certain song, and she was like, "No, don't play that song." And I was like, "Whatever." And I played the song, and that was the song that everybody loved,
All right. Why didn't she want you to play it?
I don't know why she didn't want me to play it, actually. I never asked her, because I don't care,
I love that. It's amazing.
I have to get on stage, and I will, and I think all real artists do this. If it's a success, I take the responsibility. If it's a disaster, I take the responsibility. And that's where the real connection and comes from, kind of living on that edge of success and failure.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like, people should clip that last minute of what you've just said, take your own responsibility, full stop. And like you said, you're the one that gets on stage. You're the one that might have a set list or whatever you want to play. And I was interested to read about dynamics between the band or player on stage with the audience. Again, I was reading an interview with Noel. He was talking about, look, someone like Chris Martin or Bono, they're good with interacting with the audience and all that. He goes, I don't care. I don't know. I wouldn't know what to say. And I went to a gig of his last Thursday. And it was minimal, a bit of football related chat and this kind of thing. But beyond that, nothing like, extensive. And there's also calls for him, like, to play certain famous songs of it. And it's like, as you just said, well, I'm the guy on stage. Everyone who comes to see me knows what they get. I'm not going to reinvent myself or do something unique. Was it Bruce Springsteen? I think he had a set, I forget exactly what he did, but he either played like a different set list every gig, so he mixes it up, or he had a section in his gig where the crowd would vote for the next song. So I think like on screen or something, he would just say, right, what do you want to hear next? Do you want this one, or this one? And they would play it accordingly. But it's, as you said, they take responsibility for what goes on. I think that applies through life. Partly when I came up with the idea for this show was like, well, that's the point of, like, you could stretch this into how you feel about music, how you connect with it, etc., into your life, into the self-development space. I didn't want to make it so much of a explored things. I didn't want to make it too tenuous and just forcibly make that link. But look, the great anecdotes and stories you're telling just lends itself to that. The idea that if it goes great, that's my responsibility. If it doesn't, that's also mine. I think that's a brilliant thing to put out there.
Yeah, well, I think responsibility is something missing in society in general.
Yes. Yeah.
And it always amazes me how people want, authority figures to take care of them. No, take care of yourself. You know what I mean?
That's it.
And it annoys me, because it feels like a world of very immature people, and I find it very difficult to deal with them.
Do you think, music plays a part in that, or influences? Like, I often remark that, like, you mentioned that, does today's music lack that kind of, I don't know, unifying power or means of I don't know, articulate where people are? Does music have a part to play in that sort of dependence on, or blaming everybody else on, if anything?
I don't know if music. I think no. I think music has lost real leaders and personality. Like you were talking about Noel Gallagher. I remember him telling one story that he was at a Coldplay gig. I mean, well, another story. I was in Austin, Texas. And there was a big festival there, and Coldplay were headlining it. And I just went and got a burger. I just wasn't interested. I like their songs. I do not like them. You know, Chris Martin. And I tell you why. Chris Martin, like, when you get to that height, you have power. A lot of power. Like, and I've seen this on a very small level myself. I had a band in Ireland. I know I'm going off on a million tangents, but anyway.
Please do. I love these. This is brilliant. I love this.
I had a band in Ireland. The last gig we played in this cool little venue. I was fronting the band with an acoustic guitar, a bit of distortion on it, doing my own thing as usual. With a bass player and a drummer, and there was about 100 people there in kind of tiered seating. And for some reason, and I look back and I don't know how I did this. I had 3 different sections doing 3 different things during one of my songs. And at the time, I remember thinking, like, because this is what people don't realize maybe as an artist, like, even though we're playing and singing and all that, we're also thinking about other things sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember thinking, why are these people listening to me? You know, and like, I told them what to do and they did it. But that's the power of music and also personality as well. But for me, I remember Noel Gallagher telling the story of he was at a Coldplay gig and Chris Martin climbed up to where he was sitting and said to Noel, like, how am I doing? And Noel's like, well, you should fucking know. You're the one doing it. You know what I mean?
It's your gig, mate. What are you doing?
Exactly. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, Oasis, I liked their songs. I went to see him a couple of times. Honestly, I'm going to insult you here. I found it to be a little boring because they're a little static constantly.
Yeah.
And I like percussion, you know. But I like their songs, you know. And I think, you know, Liam, obviously, his attitude was great, you know. And having been in a band with my brothers, I understand the friction very well.
You can relate to all that.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, I think, and Bono as well. I mean, I would class them as people pleasers in a lot of ways, you know. And I think that's just ridiculous, you know, to be at that level, to have that power. And I watched a documentary with the Beatles one time, and they're saying, you know, they had all this power and all this energy, and you can do something with that. You can affect people, but 100%. They didn't do anything with it. You know, maybe John Lennon later on tried to do something, but you know, at the time, it just all fizzled away. It was like, and that's, you know, I think that brings us back to responsibility as an artist. And you know, if I ever got to that, I mean, I do my own little things at my own level now, but you know, if I ever had that level, I think the world would want to watch out, you know, because I would make some changes, you know. And I think it's important to do that, you know. But yeah, people don't. It's just like it just fizzles away and it's gone. And I think, again, probably it's, you know, insult a lot of people, but I think Chris Martin's a perfect example of that. You know, I don't think he's just, I don't know, I just don't like the guy, and that's why I mean, I do like some of their songs, but I can't connect to them in a way like I have with other bands, because it has to do with personality and energy, and he just doesn't do it for me. And Bono doesn't either, to be honest with you, you know.
But that's what I think is the, you know, point we're making about, I always phrase it as, does music have any kind of heroes nowadays? We went through people like David Bowie before, Sinead O'Connor, you know, are they the artists that sold out, you know, in massive numbers? Yeah, they did, but not to, like, you know, icon levels. Well, though some see them as icons, but the point is, you know, they held that power, as you say, that most influential bands do. But I also remarked that they actually might have even hold it for such a short period of time, but that resonates through to today. So we're still talking about David Bowie, Sinead O'Connor now, the Beatles. Like, with that Beatles documentary, I was seeing a bit of it and reading it before, where you mentioned, you know, did John Lennon, you know, utilize that power previously. I spoke in another live with someone else that, you know, you could argue their turning point was when, you know, John Lennon happened to mention in an interview that, well, we're bigger than Jesus now. You know, more people listen to rock and roll, then follow their religion, etc. Whether that was taken out of context, etc. But, you know, the backlash they had in America led to all of them going, well, fuck it, I don't want to tour anymore. And they're only for, what, 4 or 5 years a touring band? And they said, no, sod that. We're just going to record just albums. And then, you know, the whole side projects came along, solo projects. They all came back together loosely for the Get Back sessions. And then they said, no, let's stop. But, you know, if you look at the period of time, is what, 7-8 years that, you know, they were real kind of in authority for. The Pistols, for example, did one album. But that resonates now as like that's where punk started. One album.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all it takes. I mean, all it takes is one song, actually.
It does,
you know? And I think, you know, that's, and I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, you know, going viral these days. I mean, it's a dangerous thing as well. I think, you know, again, like if you've, you know, I had opportunities to I had certain opportunities when I was younger. And I'm glad I didn't kind of take them, or it didn't happen, because I'd probably be dead. You know, I probably would have just taken all the drugs and drank, and, you know, because I didn't have the strength of character that I have now, you know, to stand up to it's a horrible industry, you know. And I know a woman in it. I met a woman years ago who kind of warned myself and my brother. She said, "You're too nice for the industry." And to a certain extent, she was right, you know, because I wouldn't sell my soul. I wouldn't sell me granny to be famous. You know what I mean? Exactly. It's just not my thing. I'm not interested in fame. I never have been. You know, it's never been my driving force. Whereas I did have band members who were playing music to get women, or, you know, and I'm like, what? You know, I was like, okay, whatever. You know, just play the bass. I don't care. You know,
play the damn bass.
No, it has always been music first, and I don't think there are any musical heroes these days. I think everybody's afraid to say to upset certain groups of people. And I mean, I feel it myself. You have to. There's a certain amount of self-censorship, which is horrible, you know. But you know the backlash that's going to come. Perhaps if I was more famous, I would do it. You know, I probably would, actually. But you know, it's a very toxic time we live in. I remember a time where you could have a discussion about things without it, you know, and you can have an argument about stuff, but you didn't fall out, you didn't not be friends. But now you're either, you know, you're on the left or you're on the right. It's a yes or a no.
Very black and white thinking.
And I left social media a few years ago because of that. And it's very toxic now. Yeah, all the apps, even the one we're on, is, you know, I see it. I've had a few dealings with people on it that I thought I'd be able to work with. I was hoping it'd be cool, and it turned into like, oh my God, I got to stay the hell away from that, you know. Maybe I'm more, how would you say? I've learned my lessons in the past, and I see things quicker, and I give people a chance, but then I cut people out. I've no problem with just cutting people straight out of my life when I see when the mask drops and I see what they are. No time for it, gone, you know, which is unfortunate, you know, because I believe in helping each other. I think it's important in every aspect of life. And my actual instinct is always to help people, you know, and that's, you know, I think that's what music is for as well, you know. Just from my own personal experience, I mean, I've earned a very small amount of money from music, but you know, I've had people send me messages telling me that some of my songs helped them get through a tough time. And, you know, if I had that letter or £1 million, what would mean more to me? The letter would mean more to me, you know, because I touched someone, and that's what it's about. And, you know, I think that's what, you know, the songs that, you know, talking about that touched you, they've helped you in those instances. And
immeasurably.
Yeah, like I say, I have no idea where I'd be without music. I just life would not make sense. I mean, I like my quiet, but at the same time, and I don't actually listen to a lot of music. I'll be honest. I used to listen to a lot more, but I have my songs that I go back to, and as I say, new songs by. We mentioned the soundtrack. It was a great song on it, and I don't care what genre it is. It doesn't, I have no. I'm no snob about any genre. Just some I don't like, but that's just the way it is. But I don't care if it's a pop song, a rock song, a rap song, or hip hop or whatever. It doesn't bother me as long as it's a good song and the message is good, or the energy is good. That's what I look for, But yeah, music. I think comedians are the new rock stars. I think comedians are on the front lines. I don't think musicians are anymore. I think musicians sold their souls. I think
that's a hell of an observation. Why comedians? Well, you mean stand-up comedians, right?
Yeah. I think they're the ones that are pushing the boundaries and saying the things that they're finding the boundaries. They don't know where the boundaries are till they say something, and then they find out where it is. Musicians
and some just don't care. It's like,
and they're right, because comedy is you can laugh about anything. I mean, I'm Irish. I've had guys call me Paddy or whatever. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Laugh at yourself. Laugh at everything. I've got a very dark sense of humor, so I mean, really dark. I can crack a joke about anything. But and some people get offended by it. But to me, I think you have to be able to laugh at everything, because otherwise you could go nuts. You know what I mean? And I've had some really dark times in my life, but if you can find something to smile about or something to laugh about, it breaks the spell. And even if it's dark, even if it's sick, who cares? You know what I mean? So I think comedians are the ones doing that. Musicians, sadly, no, unless there's a new breed of musician comes out of somewhere. But even the old musicians that used to be, the protest singers and standing up for stuff, they've all sold out.
Oh yeah.
Sold.
Again,
really crushed me that some of my, I wouldn't say heroes, but big influences, and I just don't even like listen to their songs anymore. It really affected me. So yeah, I think comedians are the new front line, which is great, but it's sad for music, because that's kind of what music was kind of built on, with Bob Dylan and even Bruce Springsteen. He was kind of the next Bob Dylan, and even the Beatles and John Lennon, they were speaking about certain things. And now I don't, maybe there is somebody doing it somewhere, but I don't know about it.
It's ironic, isn't it? We've got even stronger accessible means to any range of content. Whole albums, discographies, literally right there. Yet we're struggling to articulate where is the next kind of hero and what have you. And that's come. I think that's also perpetuated with things like I've seen many a documentary, biopic or whatever, where the massive artists that you see today literally just got spotted at a gig by a passing manager, or went into a record shop to record. Was it Johnny Cash's biopic, Walk the Line? He just walked into a record store. The guy went like, I don't like this gospel stuff. Can you do something else? And he's like, well, I've got this other one. And he's like, well, it'll cost you. And then it was only whatever it is now, 50 cents or whatever, I don't know, to record it. But it's just that. He just wandered into a shop from no massive background, didn't get it handed, wasn't the son of someone. It was just like, the Beatles, two students in John and Paul, just knocking about, started a little group, the Quarrymen, and just like, let's just tweak this about. And that's it. And that's these stories that you just see come along. And, but nowadays it's like, well, I don't watch these, but these bloody talent shows on TV, it's like, oh, my goat died, or my mother needs a new head. Like, that's your reason. And it's the talent. And then you read about, well, the reason they're on the TV in the first place is they've gone through like a bloody hoop jumping exercise to, have you got a strong enough sob story? Have you got, are you more of a better face for the TV, all that kind of stuff. So you're like, well, and then next year, where are they? And it's like, well,
I mean, I did have a
really?
sub story that I could have used, and I didn't use it. And I have stuff that I don't tell anybody about because I want the music
Yeah,
to speak for itself. And I mean, I don't know if I'm stupid doing that really. I don't like using things. It's just not. I mean, maybe it goes against me, but because I see other people using everything they have, and to me it's embarrassing. But I'm a pretty open person, and I talk about a lot of stuff. But there's some stuff I feel it's private, and not that I don't tell people, but I don't want to use it to have people like my music.
exactly.
That just doesn't. I don't. Because
Exploitative.
I could have gone on, exactly. I could have gone on a talent show because I had some serious stuff happen to me, and I could have used it, and it would have broken people's hearts. I wouldn't have been able to live with myself doing that. You know what I mean? And that's the way I am. I have to be able to live with what I do. And I have a daughter now as well, 13-year-old daughter. So, I have to think about that too. Although I probably constantly embarrass her. I told her that when she was younger, the older you get, the more embarrassing I'm going to be. But you have to be able to live with yourself. And I look around at people, and I don't know how. I mean, everybody's living a different life. I don't like to be judgmental, but I do judge people. Because I think life. If you're trying to help people, I think you have to have certain standards. And you have to live by them yourself. We're all human. We all make mistakes. I've made huge mistakes, but I've learned from them as well. And I think if you're putting yourself out there, why put yourself out there as something that's not true, or you're wearing a mask, or what's the point of it? I've always been a very realistic kind of. Some people would say negative. I don't think so. I think realistic person. And
well, you're true. You're true to yourself. I mean, that's obvious. I think from your songs that are on Clapper and the stuff you share. As I said at the very beginning, the instant you said, I'll be a guest on the show, I thought that's brilliant because like the authenticity comes through. You can tell you've written it, obviously, and then performing it in that same essence. And then you can then just see the comments that people put afterwards. You might have asked a simple question, or may not have even asked a question. Very simple, but people have opened up in that comment space, and therefore they then share it with other people. And that's, I think, that genuine connection that you can get, to either your own experiences or your own emotions, stuff that you might not even have thought about in ages or experienced. I've recollected before that I could say that the bands I like and the genres I'm into evoke probably every emotion on the spectrum. So if I wanted a song to gear myself up for something, Bit of Steel, there's various songs for that. If I want to resonate with sadness or brokenheartedness, there's songs with that. I experienced that probably a month ago. I've similar to like playlists and mixtape movie. I've just got lists of like songs that appeal to this kind of state or emotion, and it's ever evolving, never adding. And I just remarked that it's not necessarily one genre, one band. Sometimes it's not even a song; it's like an instrumental or just like a fan made thing. They've made there's a piece where it's both a riff or a beat with spoken word over it, but set to visual footballing iconography. So all that put together is like a really that's a really strong piece, for example. But and when artists like yourself are on there, it's that's exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about. I've got a whole list of prompts here that ask about a whole range of emotions and states, joy, rage, anger, self-worth. But to be honest, I'm like, to people that just get on Andrew's website, get on Andrew's Clap, or wherever it is, because they're all there. I mean, if you want to share some examples, both your own work and others, that's exactly what this soundtrack will be for.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. Yeah, it was. It's good. Yeah. Like you say, you have songs for different vibes. You know, I mean, Rocky is one of the obvious ones. You know, Eye of the Tiger, and you know, and even the theme. Again, you were talking about soundtracks. I mean, you know, the Rocky theme, just exhilarating. You know, you can't help but listen to that and just be like, yes, I'm gonna make it happen. Everything's gonna be great.
On probably everybody's gym playlist or running playlist for sure.
Exactly, you know. So yeah, there's like, music's just amazing that it can, you know, if you want to dance, you know, put on some Fatboy Slim, you know. Yeah, everything. You want to get a bit angry, you got some Pearl Jam, I suppose. Depending, well, they can kind of go through the emotions as well. Yeah, John Lennon's a big. I love John Lennon, actually. Yeah. One of the first songs the first song I ever learned to actually sing was a Paul McCartney song.
Oh yeah.
Mull of Kintyre. This is when I was a kid in school.
Classic.
And I was like, oh, I know, yeah. And I don't even like Paul McCartney, you know. Because I think between Paul McCartney's like the guy with the mask, whereas John Lennon was like more real. You know what I mean?
I like that. Yeah.
So, you know, it was kind of strange. So I ended up with my first, with this teacher I had, actually, she played the accordion. And she used to read, she read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to us.
All right.
Which sparked my interest in really reading as well. And I also later went on to play, my first instrument was a melodic, and then I tried to learn the accordion, which didn't work. But, you know, certain people have this kind of influence on your life as well. But yeah, Paul McCartney. Yeah.
How did you get into the guitar then? If you started as a drummer, how'd the guitar kick in?
I don't know. I just bought a guitar. I don't know why I bought a guitar. I actually don't know how I must have just wanted to. Well, my brother played guitar. I kind of was the first to really take an instrument seriously. I taught myself to play everything.
Brilliant.
Apart from the, you know, melodic and half accordion, I went to lessons. I never learned music theory properly. I had a really good music teacher who he taught us how to play the songs without theory. It was fun, you know?
Yeah.
We just knew the notes, and like that was it, and it was great, you know? But I just wanted to be a drummer. So I don't know how the guitar happened. I just bought I still have my first guitar, actually, in Ireland.
Same.
It's a monster. Jeez, it's so hard to play. But yeah, I guess I just started writing songs. I don't even know how I started writing songs, you know, because I played in a covers band, and then I just started writing songs for this band, and we were kind of famous in our area. But yeah, I just had this. Well, I loved poetry when I was in school, and I suppose that was my first time writing. When I was 10, I wrote this little poem that everybody loved, you know. All my classmates loved it, you know. I suppose that was my first little taste of, you know.
Oh yeah, I could do something with
maybe.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I bought the guitar and just started teaching myself, and I knew a guitarist actually that was in the band, and he was very supportive. He recognized my songwriting talents very early, and he kind of fed me. He'd give me tapes of, because I was very ignorant of a lot of music. Like, he gave me tapes of Led Zeppelin and Neil Young, a very eclectic taste again. He kind of feed me this stuff, you know. So yeah, but honestly, why I decided to buy a guitar, I guess it must have been just to write songs, you know. Something in me that just had to come out, you know. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's where all the best stories start, you know. You don't know where they come from. It's like, you know, all of a sudden one day your list of influences within you and whatever, made you go out and get this guitar, and then that's it. you're off. I mean, I had a similar journey where like I think I was just this is the days before Google kicked off and YouTube and all that, and it was like just watching gigs and performances of bands that were all said the same thing. Well, we can do it, anyone can do it. So I'm like, all right then, let's do it. Let's get some crappy old 20 quid guitar, find a page on Google, right? This is a fret, this is a string, how'd you tune it? No, nothing like that. And getting all the blisters on your fingers for the first time, and then just like trying to painfully pluck out a chord or something. I didn't even have a plectrum back then. Being the Indian background that I'm from, is like trying to do everything for free that you can. I got one of my dad's old credit cards, and because I didn't have one back then, and literally cut out a bloody plectrum shape and used that, right? But on top of that, at right the same time, I started a band with my friends where we was just at someone's house one evening in the garden, and I mentioned I was learning guitar, and a friend of mine sat next to me, and he just went around the garden pointing at people going, well, he can sing, he can play anything, he can do bass, I can play, you're playing, why don't we just form a band? And we did, and literally just for 6 months it was just the most fun time. Bunch of students getting together, this ragtag bunch of guys, wrote a little album of 6 songs ourselves, did a gig to like 20 odd people, and everybody went, Bish, is that a Visa card? I'm like, yeah, don't. Until one day the bassist went, I can't have this, and he just went and like from the whole pile of plectrum he got, it's like, have this one and have this one. It's like, yeah, all right. But that's just the stories that you have. Like, yeah, literally, it's like I've never looked back, and I've still got it right there. I can see it right now. It's sitting there, still using it all these years later. Oh, it's so much fun.
Oh, it's cool. Stories. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun,
This is it, and I think
the fun element.
Yeah, and that's what I tend to come back to. It's like, well, what there is a lot out there for music wise that taps into solace or doubt or whatever, but it's like, at the end of the day, this kind of thing, what uplifts you, that's what I'm trying to invoke in what I do daily now. It's like, well, to not get yourself going, but it's more kind of like to, right, what do you connect with, that makes you go, okay, I've started my day, or whatever it might be, what gears you along. So often it'd be either it might be a podcast I'm listening to, an album, a gig, whatever it might be. It's like, well, you just tune into that, and then let your day carry on with it. I think that's what, if more people did that, then hey, we could have more conversations like this, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I know. More people need to do it.
Exactly. Andrew, can you believe our time for an hour is there? And it's like, I can't believe how fast this has gone.
Cool.
Thank you again so much for being on the show. When I put this, a pleasure, and I'll put out the soundtrack in the description. We'll touch base on that afterwards. Yeah. But look, I'd love to have you back on at some point. I'm sure there's more. Sure, as you can tell, it's been a fantastic hour. I can't believe it's gone so fast. Andrew, thanks again for being on the show, and we'll catch you soon.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Nice one. Thanks a lot. So that was my hour with Andrew. I'm sure you can tell there was so many great stories, anecdotes and threads. We could have gone on for even more time there. If you want to find out more about Andrew and his material, please do check the links in the description below. That's his Spotify, his Facebook, his discography, his email, Instagram, all sorts going on in there. Do please follow him and check him out. As you can tell from the show, he is a great storyteller, and his music reflects the same kind of notions as well. Until the next time, feel supersonic. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. Please do like and comment with your thoughts below, subscribe to the channel, and sign up to be on the show. Feel supersonic.